In an unprecedented move that sent shockwaves through the judicial system, FBI agents have converged on a courthouse in Wisconsin to take a sitting judge into custody. This bombshell development raises alarming question about what's happening within our judicial system. What exactly did this judge do that was so egregious that it warranted federal agents making an arrest on courthouse grounds? Which high-profile criminal case was compromised, and why are legal experts calling this incredibly unusual? Not even something we saw during the first Trump administration. Well, the disturbing details of this case expose a level of judicial activism that threatens the very foundation of our legal system. Watch this special report to learn what happens when judges cross the line. Now, is the judicial system protecting criminals instead of victims? Reminds me of how our bodies can secretly work against us, too. A groundbreaking 2024 study shows that collagen can dramatically reverse this internal rebellion. Women taking collagen report fewer wrinkles and firmer skin. Like a corrupt judge, poor quality collagen won't deliver justice. That's why I use this multi-collagen formula, 5 key types from 4 different sources. It's transformed my appearance. Look how beautiful I look. Huh? Reducing my wrinkles, improving my skin's elasticity. I mean, come on, you know you want to pinch these cheeks, right? The hydrolyzed peptides absorb quickly, and it's non-GMO with no artificial additives. Get 51% off during our special promotion at healthwithgary.com, linked below. Just tap more below this video. So we've got a bombshell development that's happening. The judicial rebellion against America's immigration laws collapses as the FBI makes an unprecedented arrest of a sitting judge. The days of black robes shielding illegal aliens from justice are over. A new era of accountability has begun. Let's dive deep. FBI Director Kash Patel announces the arrest of Judge Hannah Dugan for obstructing immigration enforcement. We believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents to help an illegal alien escape. The judge's actions created increased danger to the public. Here is the message he posted. Just now, FBI arrested Judge Hannah Dugan out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin on charges of obstruction after evidence of Judge Dugan obstructing an immigration arrest operation last week. We believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest. Unbelievable that this judge would do so. Unfreaking real. Thankfully, our agents chased down the perp on foot, and he's been in custody since, but the judge's obstruction created increased danger to the public. We'll have more to share soon. Excellent work, FBI Milwaukee. Wow. Judge Dugan. There she is in her red shirt. How shameful. A 9-year veteran of the Milwaukee County bench under federal investigation for shielding a man from an ICE arrest. Assigned in her courtroom 4 days before the incident, invited people who feel unsafe to request Zoom hearings. Check this out.
And wanted by
asking whether a Milwaukee County judge obstructed justice by shielding a man from an ICE arrest at the Milwaukee County Courthouse. The incident happened Friday in misdemeanor court and could make the judge a target of a federal investigation. Nick Bohr tonight with that story.
Judge Hannah Dugan has been on the Milwaukee County bench for 9 years, but is herself under scrutiny after an incident involving a man wanted by immigration agents outside her courtroom Friday. According to a law enforcement source, ICE agents were waiting outside Dugan's courtroom for a man making a court appearance there, but Dugan is alleged to have shielded him to avoid his ICE detention. In an email to other judges shared with 12 News, Chief Judge Carl Ashley confirmed the presence of ICE agents Friday, explaining they had a warrant and were asked to wait outside the courtroom. However, Ashley said he, quote, had no information to provide as to what occurred inside Judge Dugan's courtroom. I spoke with Judge Dugan outside of her courtroom here this afternoon. She told me that she didn't wish to comment at this time, but there is a sign taped to her courtroom door that predates the Friday incident. but seems to reference some of the same issues. The sign urges any person who, quote, feels unsafe coming to the courthouse to contact Judge Dugan's clerk to request a remote hearing via Zoom. It's dated 4 days before the Friday incident. An ICE spokesperson told 12 News Tuesday morning they would not confirm the incident. They also wouldn't say whether the man in question was ultimately detained by ICE. At the Milwaukee County...
Well, now we know they were detained by ICE, and so was the judge. Judge Dugan became visibly angry when she learned ICE was waiting for Flores Ruiz, a domestic violence suspect. She escorted him through a jury door to help him escape federal authorities. She has now been arrested on courthouse grounds. Yeah, you stupid ass.
18th, that the judge Hannah Dugan.
You F-A-F-O, honey. F-A-F-O. Welcome to the new America, biatch.
The judge, Hannah Dugan, a local judge, Milwaukee County Court. She was arrested on courthouse grounds where she works at about 8:30 this morning, taken into custody, appearing before the federal court about these charges, helping an immigrant from Mexico try to escape federal immigration authorities. The story of how that happened, it all took place on April 18th. That man, a man named Eduardo Flores Ruiz, he was in her court for a domestic violence charge, according to the court records. And at the hearing, the immigration authorities from the federal government were waiting to apprehend him for these immigration removal proceedings. But Judge Dugan, according to the court record against her, became visibly angry, commented that the situation was absurd, left the bench, entered chambers, and then escorted later Flores Ruiz through a jury door so that he would avoid his arrest by federal immigration authorities. That is according to the Justice Department in federal court. Flores Ruiz has also been apprehended. He appeared in court yesterday for trying for the re-entry proceedings. The judge, Hannah Dugan.
Oh, wow. Over at MSNBC, this is incredibly unusual. That's what they're saying. The FBI arrested Judge Dugan for trying to help an undocumented immigrant. It's called aiding and abetting. Get it right.
So what we know right now,
have taken the extraordinary step to arrest a judge for allegedly obstructing an immigration arrest. Let's get right to NBC's Gary Grumbach, who has been trying to work on getting this reporting for us. What do we know?
Yeah, what do you know, Gary? What do you know?
What we know right now is that over the past several days and weeks, we've seen videos of people being arrested at courthouses by Department of Homeland Security officials when they show up for hearings to
Perfect. That's the way it should be.
Adjudicate their immigration status. And that is something we've seen over and over again over the past several weeks. Now, veteran circuit court judge up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, her name is Hannah Dugan. She's now being accused of trying to help out an undocumented immigrant avoid arrest. And I want to read to you FBI Director Kash Patel's tweet. He says in part, quote, just now, the FBI arrested Judge Hannah Dugan out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin on charges of obstruction after evidence of Judge Dugan obstructing an immigration arrest operation last week. He says, going on saying, we believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, allowing the subject, who they call an illegal alien, to evade arrest. Now, they say that this individual was eventually arrested by DHS officials. This is something that is just developing, Anna, and we have not yet seen any court documents in this case, but we are awaiting further news on this topic.
Again, I know how fresh this is, Gary, but do we know how unusual is a situation like this for feds to arrest a judge?
Well, this is incredibly unusual. This is certainly not something we saw during the Biden administration, not even something we saw during the first Trump administration. But with
because there's a new sheriff in town, buddy.
the increase of importance of immigration as a priority to the Trump administration this time, this is what we have started to see. This is the very first time we've
it's called enforcing the law.
Ever seen a judge arrested like this, but seeing these on-camera videos of arrests at courthouses of immigrants that are there to adjudicate their immigration status is certainly new here, Anna.
Yeah, they're wanting to make a statement.
Yeah, certainly new here. Yeah, they're just not used to actually laws being enforced. We have the details. Flores Ruiz, who Judge Dugan helped escape, had beat up two people, hit a guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. Victims were in the courtroom waiting for justice. Here's Pam Bondi.
Go to the hospital. And to set the stage for you and Sandra, this was truly horrific. This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery. He had beat up two people, a guy and a girl, beat the guy, hit the guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, you know, it's so rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom. And to set the stage.
Yeah. Lock her up. The law enforcement message to corrupt judges: we're going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. Officials stunned by Dugan's actions. Here's more from Pam Bondi.
I found out.
When you see these judges trying to obstruct your efforts to make this country safer, what is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great depth. That's her picture up on the screen, Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
When you see...
Not an isolated case. New Mexico judge, this just broke yesterday. Joel Cano resigned after harboring a TDA gang member with a necklace that said "kill," and pictures of decapitated victims on his phone. He took one of the TDA members' cell phones and beat it with a hammer to destroy evidence. That judge arrested.
Began in late February.
A New Mexico judge resigned last month after a suspected TDA gang member was arrested at his home. The man was allegedly living on property linked to the judge's family. Griff Jenkins picks up that story live in Washington. Griff, I feel like I could have watched this on Netflix.
Yeah, and Dana, this story just leaves you wondering, what did this judge know or not know, and when did he know it? Look, this all began in late February. Homeland Security investigation agents raided Judge Joel Cano's New Mexico property and arrested alleged Tren de Aragua gang member Christian Ortega Lopez for being illegally in the country and in possession of a firearm. Days later, Judge Cano resigned without explanation. Now, according to court documents, Ortega Lopez had been doing odd jobs for Cano's wife before being offered lodging in the couple's casita on the back of the property following his eviction from an El Paso apartment. And in the documents, it says, quote, the defendant was introduced to Nancy Cano's daughter, April Cano, who possessed a large number of firearms. The defendant advised that April Cano allowed him to hold and sometimes shoot various firearms. They also allege Ortega Lopez admitted he knew it was illegal for him to possess firearms. He associated with other TDA gang members and had tattoos associated with TDA.
A New Mexico judge.
Judge Cano and his wife gave the gang member assault rifles that belonged to their daughter. The criminal goes to a shooting range with the rifles, a suppressor, other known TDA members. Judges are actively endangering American citizens.
I mean, when you look at the associations with this violent Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, and this person that they harbored in their home, he was showing signs through clothing, we were told, tattoos. There was evidence through voice messages and text messages of his association to TDA. So what charges will Cano and his wife face, if any?
So Judge Cano, soon to be former Judge Cano, got his charges were just unsealed. He's charged with obstruction. He admitted post Miranda. He took one of the TDA members' cell phones himself, took it, beat it with a hammer, destroyed it, and then walked the pieces to a city dumpster to dispose of it to protect him. The wife also is charged with destroying evidence. Sandra, not only that, this TDA member, and he had on a necklace that said kill, something about death. He had tattoos all over him. He also had on his cell phone pictures of two decapitated victims, decapitated, gruesome photos, and he was sending them out, and whoever he was sending them to was sending back, say, hey, you need to be careful. You shouldn't be sending these. You shouldn't be texting these photos out. Not only that, these two, the judge and his wife, gave him assault rifles that belonged to their daughter. That's what they're charged with. In the criminal report affidavit, he goes to a shooting range with these assault rifles, with a suppressor, with other known TDA members, and they're shooting. This is the last person that we want in our country, nor will we ever tolerate a judge or anyone else harboring them. I mean,
oh, wow. Can you believe that? Well, now those judges have been arrested. Activist judges been blocking Trump at every term.
Fund sanctuary cities. And like 20 minutes later, another federal judge came in and says that a federal judge just came in and said that President Trump cannot defund sanctuary cities. And like 20 minutes later, another federal judge came in and says that President Trump cannot take DEI out of the schools. This is after federal judges tried to block the Department of Government Efficiency from accessing certain agencies. Federal judges have blocked deportations. I mean, they tried to get Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an MS-13 gang member, wife beater, human trafficker. They tried to say that you can't even deport him or his Tren de Aragua friends, MS-13 friends. You can't deport anybody. Can we talk about defying these courts already? Because I'm sorry, they talk about defying the courts as fascism. What do you call a system where the president of the United States was elected in a landslide mandate, gets into power, and then everything that he does is blocked by unelected judges and justices who never were elected by the people? The president was elected by millions and millions of voters just last November, just a few months ago.
Yeah, we all remember. And a Democratic congresswoman claiming enforcing immigration law is authoritarian. While they've been in her office, received more calls about protecting illegal aliens than any other issue.
Is still due. But I am very interested in Democrats caring about due process for illegal aliens. What process do you think is still due an individual who two courts found had reasonable belief to believe he had an affiliation with MS-13, who his wife initially said had scratched her and caused a bruising on her body? What process would make you feel like the Constitution and our framers' understanding of it would be fulfilled?
So, Laura, you and I can disagree on, this individual in particular. I'm not here to really advocate for one person. That needs to happen in court. No evidence has actually ever been presented in court.
You went to El Salvador. Now you're saying it's not about him. Of course it's about him.
Due process.
You went to El Salvador for a political stunt, and now you're saying it's not about him.
It is about this case. Laura, it is about the rule of law. This is a bipartisan issue. It transcends partisan politics. That's why a conservative-leaning Supreme Court has said that Donald Trump must facilitate the return of this individual. This is very dangerous. We are turning into an authoritarian country, and there are Americans from all across the political spectrum who are deeply concerned about this. Again, my office has not received more calls about any other issue since I have been a congresswoman than this one, tariffs being the second one, and the lack of real logical economic policy, but the issue of due process.
Yeah, keep making excuses. Congress is taking action. Representative Darrell Issa passed a bill to block district courts from issuing nationwide injunctions, and here's Newt Gingrich.
Well, I can talk. There's a great question from Incognito, who asked why Congress isn't doing more to deal with these district judges who seem so out of control. Well, I can talk about that because I actually testified at a Judiciary Committee hearing in the House just about a week ago, talking about the need to restrict district courts to local district decisions and not allow district court judges to make nationwide decisions that affect everybody as though they were an alternative president. I'm delighted to report that Congressman Darrell Issa actually passed a bill which would block district courts from having nationwide injunctions and instead limit them to their own district. It went through the House. Senator Grassley has a similar bill in the Senate. I suspect it'll pass, and I suspect that President Trump will sign it. So Congress is moving to put district judges back in their district and not allow them to pretend that they're alternative presidents.
America is finally fighting back against the black-robed tyrants who placed illegal aliens above American citizens. When judges become criminals, they must face consequences, and the days of judicial immunity are over, as President Trump restores law and order to our nation. So the arrest of Judge Dugan represents a pivotal moment in the battle against judicial activism. When those entrusted with upholding our laws instead choose to obstruct them, the entire system breaks down. This case forces us to confront some uncomfortable questions about the political motivations infiltrating our courts. Should judges be allowed to substitute their personal policy preferences for the will of the voters? Is this an isolated incident, or is it emblematic of a wider problem within our judiciary? And most importantly, what must be done to ensure our courts enforce the law rather than undermine it? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, make sure you stand with justice by checking out shop.nextnewsnetwork.com for exclusive Next News Network gear. Show the world where you get your real news while the judicial rebellion continues to crumble.